Yo peeps, this is Ray with Right Carpentry, and I'm going to give a quick tutorial on how to paint highly profiled cabinets. Now you see this one, it has all these profiles, like 2 or 3 profiles, small little routed out details around the edges where stuff can get into and blah blah blah. And then on the inner panels, there's a wide space between this main raised panel and the rails and the stiles on the side. So a lot of people want to caulk that. It takes time and energy, and I personally hate caulking like a lot of people, though I'm good at it. I don't want to caulk 45 cabinets and drawers that are highly profiled. And so I have cleaned this, sanded it down once with some high grit, and then added a little bit of the paint to the primer with some high-end primer and primered it up. So the key to primering this is and the process is, and I'll show you in a second, you can see where that raised panel leaves beads as it dries up. But it should look nice and clean, and if you look really close, it's beaded up down there. So the key is using both a brush and a roller, because you don't want to leave lines, and I am brushing as opposed to spraying, because most homeowners don't have a sprayer at home and aren't going to pull it out and learn how to spray and actually know what they're doing with their cabinet. So this is a rolling tutorial. And so I use a Purdy, I think it's called a jumbo roller, and a 1/4 inch no lint roller, okay? And then I use Sherwin-Williams paint, usually high-end paint. If you're doing it in your kitchen, do not go to Home Depot. You spend your money on a higher-end paint. So the key, basically, the process is this as you're painting, to deal with those beaded up cracks. And they'll show through if you don't really address them. They'll show through all the way to the final paint job. So what I do is this, I take just a regular brush, not one of my expensive ones that I use, the Purdy brush, which I use for interior walls and crown molding and edging cabinets and stuff like that. So I take this one, get a good amount of paint on it, and I take it and I really jam it up in there. I'm doing this with the camera, which is very hard. So I really jam it, and you can get as much paint on there as you want. And I'll show you how you deal with extra paint in a second. So I'm just continuing to soak this at the end, not too much, just on one side. And I'm kind of just jamming it up there with the brush so that it makes like a caulk line. Okay, and especially in the corners, you want the corners really clean. So now if you look at it, you can see it's real clean. Now even that might dry up. So it's better to use more than less, and I'm gonna show you how I deal with all the excess, and that's where the roller comes in. So I just don't do that. I also kind of get these little profiles too. I really push the brush into them, and so that gets a nice clean coat over that. It digs into all those profiled edges and stuff where paint might not necessarily get. And sometimes I'll even do this outer edge, because you can even see what that has beaded up a little bit. But the roller takes care of that on these flat sides, so you don't really worry about that. All right, so I give it a little coat of paint, hit those edges hard, pick up my roller. I use a minimum amount of paint on my roller because you already have a lot on it, just enough to smooth it out a little bit. And I push it hard to kind of even out the paint. The amount of paint you put on your roller is always crucial. On a smaller drawer, you do not want a whole bunch of paint on your roller, because the key is for 2 things, and I'll show you. The first is to actually apply the paint around the flat edges, like I mentioned. So you see it cleans up that those beads on the flat edges. And it gets rid of all your lines from the roller. I'm not done yet, I'll show you. I slowly get rid of all the lines. It's hard to do with a camera. I'm actually pull out a tripod to get serious about this, folks. So I'm getting rid of all the lines by going around and lightly using the edge of these rollers, which are great. People think they can't get everywhere, but they really can, believe me. once you get a little experience with them, and they leave no lines whatsoever. So you got to be really careful to get these edges, these of the raised panel, because those are really show up in the end process. So like I said, I take it around, and this is only my first coat. I sand down with 320 after this a little bit, buff it out, and then I do one more coat after this. So the key is to really get that caulk-like effect on the inner raised panel. I'm going to show you a second once I'm finished with this. And these are great for even the sides. They don't go over the edge if you push lightly, and they give you a real clean line of paint across, even when you have to hit the edges. Okay. All right. So, take a quick look, and again, I'm gonna do one more coat. I'm gonna buff down. You can see the beaded lines are gone, and it's real clean. It's almost like caulk effect without caulking. You see a little bit right there, but I'm gonna save that. I can fix it now, but I'm just gonna save it for the next coat. It's real clean all the way around, and that roller, when this paint dries, is gonna make a real, almost spray-like effect. So hopefully this helped out some of you homeowners that wanna do it on your own. High-end paint. Always use a great roller. Go over all your lines that you created with a brush. And make sure you use a brush to create a caulk-like effect at that rate.